Workers' compensation. So we're going to cover compensation programs for workers who are injured at work. So if you get hurt on the job, your employer is required to pay for workers' compensation benefits. You can get hurt on the job by either an event at work. So an example is like falling on your back, maybe being burned by a chemical or hot oil, getting into a car accident while making deliveries. These are injuries incurred by an event at work. You can also get hurt on the job by repeated exposures at work. So, for example, hurting your back from repetitive motion. So, if you're constantly lifting heavy boxes for your job, you might have a back injury. Or losing your hearing because of constant loud noises. So, for example, if you're an air traffic controlman and you're on the ground with loud airplanes all the time, you might have some loss of hearing because of those loud noises. That's also possible. So, these are the types of ways you could potentially get hurt on the job. So, if you are a injured employee, then you are entitled to disability benefits. So, these are payments that you are able to receive because you've lost wages when you're temporarily or permanently unable to work because of that injury. So, if you get hurt, there's recovery time, or if it's a serious injury, you might not be able to work again. So, these disability benefits are supposed to pay for all of those lost wages. You're also entitled to medical care. So if you are injured on the job, then your employer must pay for medical care for that recovery. So this includes doctor's visits, tests, any medicine you might need, also any equipment you might need. So if you need crutches or a wheelchair, if you're traveling very far to see a specialist, then your employer must also pay for that care, and also other treatment services. So for example, rehabilitation. If you have an injury and you have to gain the motion back in your wrist or in your knee or something that was injured, then the employer must also pay for that treatment service. An employee is also entitled to job displacement benefit. So this voucher is supposed to help pay for retraining or skill enhancement if you are permanently disabled from this injury at your work. So if you're no longer to work for the same employer, because of this injury and you are unable to return, then you are able to receive this voucher to help pay for. So if you want to look for a new job in a new industry, or if you have to relearn a skill to get back into the job market, then this is a voucher to help with that. And this is only for if you're actually receiving permanent disability benefits. So if you're permanently injured from your work and prevented from working at the same place again. You're also entitled to death benefits. So if you die on the job, these are payments to your spouse, your children, or other dependents. So if an employee is injured from a injury or illness due to the job, then the close family members are entitled to death benefits. So what happens if you are injured at work? So most injuries on the job actually are very minor. 90% of the time, workers will just need to fill out an incident report. So first, you want to make sure you get first aid, obviously. You could see a doctor if it's necessary, and let the medical staff also know that it is an injury or illness that is job related. And then notify your employer as well, and then you can fill out an incident report. Some minor injuries might include slipping and falling, but not actually injuring a muscle tissue or bone. Some minor incidences might also be maybe improper lifting technique and you sprain something, and also maybe a car accident where you don't break a bone, maybe just the car is in a bad state, but you're fine. That might be, you just might have some cuts and bruises. That might be minor injuries as well. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of these injuries usually are minor. However, if you are seriously injured at work, then you should call your supervisor or 911 or both for help immediately. get medical assistance immediately, and then report the injury or illness to your employer as soon as you are able to, but obviously take care of that injury first. And then employers then must report to OSHA in a timely manner if there is a serious injury. And a serious injury is like an injury that requires medical attention beyond just first aid kit, beyond just a bandage. And depending on that injury, you might be able to file for workers' compensation. So workers' compensation is that payment for if you're unable to work for a temporary or for a permanent time period. So depending on your injury, you should be compensated. And so don't be afraid to report the incident either. Your employer should be notified so that they can tell OSHA in a timely manner. And they also need to evaluate that working condition and determine whether there is any additional safety precautions that are needed. They also can't retaliate against you just because you were injured or ill at work. If your injury does require additional recovery time, just know that you may be entitled to workers' compensation, and you should absolutely visit the Department of Industrial Relations to find out more information. So some resources for you. There are workshops that you can attend. So if you are injured at the job, or if you think you might be, or just for your own edification, if you want to know your rights, you can actually attend virtual injured worker workshops, so you can learn about your rights in those workshops. And then if you visit the Department of Industrial Relations, that website has great information regarding labor law, OSHA safety standards, and workers' compensation. And also actually it includes a great guidebook for workers' compensation, so you can kind of figure out the ins and outs of that payment system.